the door, very similar to what you walked out to Tuesday morning. Mid-60s northwest Kansas, lower 70s elsewhere. A summer feel to the air, and that summery start going to lead to a summery finish. Mid-70s at 7 a.m., mid-70s, 8 a.m., a few passing high clouds, 80 degrees, 10 a.m. I think you know how this weather story is going to end. 86 by noon, lots of sunshine. Winds gusty at around 20 to 30 miles an hour, not here, just here in Wichita, but elsewhere across the state of Kansas as well. And a wind-blown high of 93 for your Wednesday. Lots of sunshine on tap for today. Looking at high temperatures statewide, about same as where we ended up on that toasty Tuesday. Summer not letting go of Kansas for now. But fall-like temperatures are on the way, along with rain and thunderstorms.
Go ahead and stand by for the interview, please.
More future tracks and when the rain's coming to you in a few minutes.
Thanks, Mark. New this morning, a Kansan is going to space. Hoxie native and Air Force Colonel Nick Hague will rocket off to the International Space Station next month.
Yeah, he's been training for the mission in Russia ahead of the October 11th launch. Colonel Hague joins us live from the Cosmonaut Training Center in Russia. Good morning, Colonel, from Kansas.
Good morning, Scott, from Star City, Russia.
Our Star City, Russia, love it. Hey, so you're from Hoxie in western Kansas, currently in Russia, and a few weeks away from going into space. At this point, what are you most excited about?
Well, I got to say, it's my first time, so the excitement's going to start as soon as the engines light on the launch pad, and getting to experience the vibrations. You know, that's something that we don't necessarily simulate in all my training leading up to this. So that first ride on the rocket is going to be thrilling.
Now, you're going to be at the International Space Station for 6 months. Once you're there, what are the plans? What are you going to do there?
So there's a team of thousands on the ground that are going to keep us busy every minute of every day. The bulk of it is going to be science related. We've got over 250 different science experiments that we're going to try to perform while we're up there, myself and the rest of the crew. In addition to that, we're going to be performing maintenance to make sure that the space station stays the world-class laboratory that it is. In addition to potential spacewalks, visiting vehicles, bringing up cargo and leaving, there's a couple other significant milestones. The first test flights of the unmanned commercial crew vehicles should arrive while I'm on orbit.
Now, I was watching some of your videos. You applied to become an astronaut 3 times before you were accepted. So I guess accepted on the 3rd time into the class of 2013. What advice do you have for people who want to go into space and pursue this career?
Well, the advice is simple. Is this: you just need to try. And never give up on your dreams. You're going to get rejected along the way. There may be obstacles, but perseverance is really the key to making it through. The things that you're going to feel most proud of in life, your accomplishments, are going to be things that were hard to achieve. Specifically, I grew up in rural Kansas, and when I was in high school, the idea of me flying to space was something that was almost beyond comprehension. But it just took perseverance in trying to figure out how to put all the pieces together that were going to get me there. So for all those that are out there sitting in classrooms right now in rural Kansas, it's not beyond reach. Your dreams, you can make them happen.
Now, in addition to that great advice, anything else you want to say to the family and friends in Hoxie who are watching you right now?
Yeah, so I just want to thank them. You don't get to where you're at in life by yourself. It starts in high school with teachers that inspire you. It continues on in the family and friends that support you along the way as you try to overcome those obstacles. You don't get to where you're at alone. So thank you to all of them.
All right, Colonel Nick Hague from Kansas, currently in Russia, heading to the International Space Station next month. Thanks so much for joining us live this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, putting out the slate in 3, 2, You're out.
Mic check.
Good morning.
We're about 20 seconds out.
Okay, thank you.
Stand by.
He is getting ready to make the trip of a lifetime to space. But before he leaves, we get to talk to him.
What a privilege for us. Joining us now live from Moscow, Russia, is Hoxie native Nick Hague. Nick, tell us about your trip. When are you leaving, and how long will you be gone?
Yes, good morning. So launch is under a month from now, October 11th, and I'll launch to the International Space Station and be up there for 187 days, just over 6 months. So it's a thrilling journey I'm about to start. I've been training a long time for it, so I'm really excited.
Nick, you'll be at the International Space Station. What will you be doing? What's your training like at this point?
So the training is the mission of the space station is to perform science. And so while we're up there, there's going to be approximately 250 different science experiments that we're going to do. Some of those I'm going to be handling the equipment to perform the experiment, and some of those I will be the subject of the experiment. In addition to the science that we're going to do, we have to maintain the space station, so we learn all of the maintenance activities that are required, whether that's inside or whether that's outside doing a spacewalk to help repair and extend the life of the station.
Is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to the most while being aboard the station?
I get that question a lot, and the answer is pretty simple. This is my first time. And so going through the process of adapting to space and getting to experience the idea that I'm going to be floating for 6 months. My feet aren't going to touch the ground for 6 months, and all of the changes to my body that are going to happen because of that. I'm excited to see how I respond to living in zero G.
Just a kid from Hoxie, Kansas. Imagine this is going to be a dream come true.
It is. I can remember staring up into the night sky. You get a great view of the stars in Kansas, and I could never, growing up, have imagined that I was going to get here. But I was dreaming about it. How it actually played out, I couldn't have written a script better for it. But the thing I want to do is just say thanks to all those friends and family that are in Kansas that supported me along the way. You don't get to where you're going in life by yourself. My accomplishments aren't my own. They're everybody that helped me along the way. And I had teachers in high school that sparked interest in me, that helped me along the way. And then all the family throughout my life that's been there, the support has been amazing. So thank you to all of them.
Yeah, and we know there's no cell phone towers up there, but is there a way we can track you in any way over the next 6 months? What you're doing?
Yes. So tie into NASA, nasa.gov on the website, NASA TV. They're going to be covering our exploits over the next 6 months. That's the best way to stay in touch.
Okay, we look forward to it. Thank you so much. Best of luck to you. This is going to be fantastic. And when is launch again?
It comes later in October on the 11th, and you can follow his account on Twitter at AstroHague. We'll be right
back. Count in 3, 2. 1, VOA.
Hello, Nick. Greetings from Washington, D.C. This is Voice of America.
Yeah, good morning from Star City, Russia.
Okay, my first question is, I believe you were in the middle of your training in Russia when this news emerged about a hole in the station, about the pressure problems. So ahead of your flight, do you have safety concerns?
No, I don't. Two things I'd like to say about this is the first is I spent the better part of the last 2 years training emergency scenarios and how to respond to things like depressurization, with some of the crew that are on board right now. And so as this was unfolding on orbit, I was watching along with many on the ground. And the thing that impressed me was how well the training worked and how well the procedures led us to getting a fix to the problem as quick as we did. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I have absolute faith in the Russians to perform their investigation, find out what was the cause of the leak, and ensure that we have safe vehicles going forward. I have complete confidence in them delivering a vehicle that's going to get me to the station safely and get me home.
The other problem is we've heard pretty serious accusations from a really top level that Americans could actually do that in order to sabotage work of a station or have like premature landing. What do your colleagues at NASA think about these accusations?
Yeah, so I think the joint statement that the heads of both NASA and Roscosmos issued over the past couple days have helped us move beyond those rumors. The crew up there, we depend on each other for our lives, and the ground supports us, and we depend on the ground for our lives. So, performing something like that to put people in jeopardy is beyond anything I could think of.
Thank you very much. Have a good flight.
Thank you very much.
Improve students' abilities to solve problems, be creative, and work.
All right, this morning we have a treat. We're NASA astronaut Nick Hague, who's in Russia right now, coming to us live. He's at the Cosmonaut Training Center getting ready to go to the International Space Station in October. Hey, Nick, good morning.
Good morning.
From Kansas, so you're definitely not in Kansas anymore.
No, I'm quite a ways away from there. It's been a long journey from the wheat fields of Kansas to the suburbs of Moscow.
Definitely. So what will your research focus on while you're on the ISS?
So there's general areas that we always focus on, whether it's biology or biotechnology, physical sciences, earth and space sciences, technology demonstrations. While I'm up there for 6 months, we're going to end up performing upwards of 250 different experiments as a crew. So there's a wide breadth of what we're trying to accomplish. Some of the things that are more personal are the ones where I'm the subject. They put me as part of the experiments, and that's the human research. And those are the things I'm probably most familiar with because they've had to collect all of their data in advance of me flying. So I've taken lots of images and given lots of blood so that they understand how my body works here on the ground first.
Some cool stuff. So tell us about your crewmate.
Yeah, so my commander, Alexei Ovchinin, this is his second flight. I met him a little more than a couple years ago, and he's been a thrill to work with. We've got to know each other very well. One of the side effects of training inside the Soyuz spacecraft is that it's really small. So you're sitting elbow to elbow, hours upon hours, days upon days. You get to know your crewmates pretty good.
I'd say so. So 6 months. We wish you the best at the ISS and have a safe travel.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
What about?
Hi, Nick. It's Brad.
I can hear you loud and clear, Brad. How you doing?
I'm great. That's a serious delay. So listen, we'll go right into this. Just FYI, I'm not heard on this clip, so if you maybe rephrase my question a little. The first is, how does the DoD contribute to the space program?
Yeah, so how does DoD contribute to the space program? I guess we just recently celebrated the 71st anniversary of the Air Force. I'm an Air Force officer, so I have to give a big shout out to all fellow airmen and say thanks for what they do. DoD in general contributes to our mission in space. The way it goes, we've got people on the launch ranges that are helping us launch cargo to the space station. We've got search and rescue forces that are there helping, protect against contingencies to recover crew. Soon we're going to be launching our own crews from Florida, and they're going to be directly involved with crew recovery. We've got a network that is scouring the skies looking for debris, and then they tell us when some of that debris threatens the space station, and then we can move out of the way. We also receive all of our guidance from GPS. So it tells us where we're going, determines what our orbit is. It also tells us what our orientation is. So these are all fundamental services that the Air Force and DoD provide to us that make the human exploration of space possible.
So of all the experiments you're scheduled to perform in orbit, is there one that has potential to become a major scientific breakthrough with a lasting impact on the world?
We're going to be up there. We're going to do more than, in the course of 6 months, upwards of 250 different science experiments. Any of those could potentially have that breakthrough and advance science. We're up there trying to ask the questions we don't have answers to. The space station is the only place where we can subject our experiments to long-term exposure to microgravity, where everything is floating relative to each other. It's the only place. It's an amazing laboratory, and so we can throw things up there. Just recently they were doing experiments trying to look at cancer treatments and how they can better develop those cancer treatments. I'm going to be up there on my Soyuz that I'm flying up. My crewmate, Alexei Ovchinin, is going to be performing an experiment where they're going to be printing tissues. So these are pretty amazing advancements. Any of these could have extreme breakthroughs.
So I'm very excited for you and Katie and the boys. And, some astronauts, some kids grow up idolizing astronauts, but, you've got a sixth grader now. So what does he think about his astronaut dad?
I think first and foremost, he thinks I'm just dad. I can be embarrassing at times. I can be fun at times, like I hope every other dad is. So every now and then I get the chance to expose them to something that's really dramatic. and new, and I think it fascinates them what the job is. But on a routine basis, I'm just going to work like every other dad, and I come home from work. I think I might be gone a little bit more than maybe the average father. In the last 2 years, I've spent a good chunk of that over here in Russia training. But I'm excited to get them over here because they're going to come watch the launch in Baikonur, and it should be pretty thrilling.
So this is some deployment, and I realize I don't have very much time here, but when you look out the window for the first time when you're in orbit, what do you think you're going to feel? What do you want to see?
It's one of those things where I just want to try to absorb as much of it as I can. I've heard lots of astronauts and cosmonauts come back from space and say that you just can't describe the way you describe it never does it justice. Photos never capture the true colors of up there. So I just want to try to absorb as much as I can looking at that window for the first time and just soak it all in.
Nick, thanks so much for your time. Give my love to your family, all right? It's been a long time.
Take care. Good luck on the launch.
All right, going to sleep. Bill Harwood.
I'm sorry, say again?
Hello?
Thank you. Hey, Nick, Bill Harwood, CBS News at the Kennedy Space Center. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Glad to be with you today.
Well, look, I always am curious about folks who are flying for the first time on Soyuz. You've gone through a lot of training. Give me a little sense of the vehicle and your impressions of it, safety, reliability, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I've done over the course of the last 2 years, we do about 36 different integrated simulations where they throw every failure they can think of at us. And over the last 2 years, I've got an appreciation for just how robust the Soyuz spacecraft is. We plan for success and also all of the other contingencies, and we exercise against all of those different failures and different contingencies, and we're still able to get the mission done, get to the station, and still get home. So, if anything, I've got a very high appreciation for just how solid of a spacecraft it is.
How tough is it training for a flight on a Soyuz in a second language? That just strikes me as a really daunting challenge.
It is. Day one of showing up at NASA back in 2013, I started Russian language classes, and it continues to this day. It's really trying to learn to appreciate the language and the culture and think so that you can connect with your crewmate. What makes it easier is that my crewmate, my commander, Alexei Ovchenin, is doing the exact same thing. He's learning English and he's trying to meet me on my terms. And so together we develop this ability to work with each other and predict what each other is doing. We're both products of military systems, and so we think in very similar ways. And so that's also helped us click together as a crew.
That sounds great. I was just looking at your increment, and obviously you're going to see some commercial crews show up. Not crews necessarily, but the spacecraft anyway, with demos and test flights, and maybe a crew toward the end of the increment. Who knows? What sort of? Well, first of all, how important do you think that is for NASA to get those guys flying? And is there anything you've had to learn to be able to deal with that when one of these shows up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a critical milestone for us to be able to bring back the means to launch crews from the United States. It improves our robust ability to provide crews to the station, both from Russia as well as the United States. That can only help the program in the future. More importantly, it allows us to increase the number of crew that will be on the station, and more crew on station means more science that can get done. And that's what we're up there to try to do. We're up there to try to answer the questions we don't know the answers to. So that's going to be an important milestone. Specifically, my training has been to do some of the tasks that we're going to need to do once we open the hatch to that uncrewed vehicle. There's going to be some inspections that have to happen. We also have to monitor from a crew perspective as the automated docking process is occurring and make sure that that's all performing nominally.
Is that something that you guys would do anything manually with in a nominal test flight? Or in other words, or are you just monitoring an automated approach by the vehicle?
We're monitoring the automated approach by the vehicle. If something's not going right, we have the ability to send the vehicle away.
Got it. One thing I'm always curious about folks who fly for the first time also is the whole nature of risk. And of course, you've done a lot of aircraft testing, and I know your wife's in the Air Force. At least I think she is. How do you guys view risk? Are your kids going to the launch?
Yeah, so risk is a big part of it. The other part of it is the reward and what we're trying to accomplish. You're right. My wife is active duty Air Force. We're both active duty Air Force, and we've both served 20 years. So I think our approach to risk is that we look at it as what we're trying to accomplish, and we both believe in what we're doing is going to help others, and it's going to serve something larger than ourselves. So I think that we accept those risks. We don't blindly accept them. Obviously, we train to try to minimize as much of that as possible. But that's why we're doing it. Yes, my family is going to join me in Baikonur to watch the launch. So Katie's going to bring over the boys, and they're going to see their first rocket launch. So it should be an exciting time.
That'll be cool. And let me ask you, which I always ask everybody going up, what are you looking forward to the most? I mean, most people say the work and the experience, but on a personal level, what is it that you're really looking forward to?
Yeah, so I've listened to all the stories of the astronauts and cosmonauts that come back, and I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is just experiencing my own adaptation to space. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to float for 6 months. My feet won't need to touch the ground. There'll be all kinds of physiological changes that are going to happen to my body, and I'm going to adapt to that environment. And so I'm interested to see how it's going to affect me. You know, how is that process going to play out? At a personal level, that's going to be the thing that I'm most curious about. There's also going to be every day something that surprises me because I'm in a weightless environment, and I expect to behave a certain way because of the 42 years I've been on the ground. And when it doesn't, those surprises, I think, will be the little presents along the way that make the flight exciting.
Well, that's fantastic, Nick. Listen, have a great flight. I look forward to talking to you in orbit, and best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey, Dagan, there will be no briefing here at the White House, but we do expect a gaggle aboard Air Force One as we...
Hi, Nick. Can you hear me?
...to you, but for now,
back
to you in New York.
Hi, Nick. This is Fox New York. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Carolina will be very happy to see the president on the ground.
Absolutely.
Comforting.
Gotcha, Nick.
Thank you so much. Switching gears, a new survey from Bankrate.com shows that 24 million homeowners think it is a good idea to tap into the value of their home to pay everyday bills. Joining me now is Ramsey Solutions financial expert, author of the upcoming book, Everyday Millionaires, Chris Hogan. Chris, always great to see you. Let's start simple. Is this a good idea?
Dagan, it really isn't. I mean, the American dream is to buy a home and own it. The last thing you want to do is to treat your house like an ATM by pulling out equity. And so people don't need to tap into equity. They need to tap into a plan that will actually help them. They need financial help. This is a cry for help. And so I want to guide people to help them acknowledge what they need to do. Getting on a budget, getting serious about attacking debt, and slow down. We get so impatient that we're willing to grab whatever's...
Monahan tweeting in part, quote, I provided medical records from 2017 stating on Tuesday...
Hi, Nick. It's New York Audio. Can you hear me okay?
...about the abuse and who did it. My therapist released records stating I have been dealing and healing from the abuse. Florida Governor Rick Scott forced to leave a restaurant after protesters...
Hi, Nick. New York Audio. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. How can you hear me?
Protesters blocking the entrance of a Cuban restaurant upset over Florida's toxic...
Nick, good morning. Kelly with Fox and Friends. How are you?
Republican forced to leave through a back door.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Republican taunted at a restaurant. As you know, Homeland Security Secretary Kirsten...
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for asking. We're still about a minute out right now. How do you actually pronounce your last name, sir?
Here. A Democratic congressional candidate in Wisconsin hit hard in a new campaign ad, get this, by his own brother.
Thank you so much. You're talking to all three anchors, Steve, Ainsley, Brian.
People want to be represented by someone who's shown contempt for those in law enforcement.
Well, that's James Bryce, a cop, slamming his brother Randy, who is running to fill Paul Ryan's seat in Congress. James referring to a 2012 tweet by his brother comparing cops to terrorists. His campaign calls it dirty politics. Awkward holiday dinners with that family. All right, this little girl is taking her big sister duties very seriously. Watch this.
And then you want me to take? I'll take her.
Sorry. Texas Henley refuses to let go of newborn baby Peyton at a hospital in Pennsylvania. As you can see, she shakes her head no every time someone asks if they can pick up the newborn. Isn't that adorable?
Cute. All right. Thank you, Jillian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jillian.
Well, 22 minutes.
Stand, sir.
International Space Station's about to get 2 new residents.
And one of them is Air Force Colonel Nick Hague. He, along with a Russian astronaut, will join the 3 other astronauts currently at the International Space Station when they launch next month.
Colonel Hague joins us now from training in Star City, Russia, to preview his first space expedition. Oh my gosh, so many questions for you. How are you preparing? Are you nervous?
I don't think I'd be human if I wasn't nervous. We've been training for 2 years for this moment. About a half of that has been spent over here in Star City trying to learn how to speak the language and operate the Soyuz spacecraft. Most of that training's behind me now. In a little over a week, I'm going to head down to the Baikonur Cosmodrome, and we'll launch on October 11th. So, super exciting.
Good luck. Indeed, we're all excited. So now, Colonel, tell us a little bit about, we know the preparation you've gone in for years with the Air Force and with NASA as well. But how did you prepare your family for you being gone until March? I read somewhere that it might involve some Legos.
So a great way to teach your kids how a rocket works is to build one with them. So we've built a Saturn V together. I've got 2 young boys, and explaining all the ins and outs of how a rocket works, that's a great way to do it. How do you prepare the family? Fortunately, the military has prepared our family. I'm married to active duty Air Force officer. We're a joint military family, so deployments are not new to the family. I've deployed before. My wife has deployed multiple times, one for a year at a time. So the separation is not something strange to us.
All right, so when you're up there, who else will be there? What is the mission?
Yeah, so we're going to be up there for 6 months. I'm going to launch with Alexei Ovchinin, my Soyuz commander, Russian cosmonaut. We're going to join Sergei Prokopyev, Russian cosmonaut, along with Alex Gerst from Germany and Serena Onion-Chancellor, who's a NASA astronaut. The mission is simple. We're up there to perform science. We're trying to be the hands and the eyes and the ears of scientists on the ground, trying to answer questions they don't have the answers to. And this is the only place where we can take those experiments and expose them to long-duration weightlessness, where everything's just floating around together.
Well, Colonel, good luck to you. Colonel Nick Hague, going to take off next month, be gone for close to 6 months. Sir, thank you very much for your service. We'll be watching.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Nick, you are all clear. Thank you so much for your time, Colonel. Thank you again.
Up to a satellite, down to the ground, up to a satellite, down to the ground.
Nick, can I have a mic check, please?
Yeah. How do you hear me?
I hear you pretty well.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Nick, this is Jacob, the producer. We are about 1 minute out.
Okay. Thank you, Jacob.
Steve and Melissa.
Ten seconds. Stand by.
Well, in just a matter of weeks, an American astronaut will head to the International Space Station.
Yeah, Nick Hague is currently training in Russia with his cosmonaut crewmate. They're set to launch in October for a 6-month mission. And Nick joins us live now from the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Star City, Russia. Dick, I've been wondering, you've done a lot of training in the States, I know. Is it different training in Russia? What's it like?
It's not much different. The team of people here are as dedicated and committed to getting us prepared for spaceflight. The things that we're learning about over here pertaining to the Soyuz spacecraft are the same types of things that we have to learn about the International Space Station. So it's different equipment, but the same types of things, the same principles that you have to learn. But when it all boils down to it, it's really just learning how to work together. So whether I'm training with my crew here in Star City or I'm training with my crew in Houston, Texas, we're training together. And so that's what this last 2 years has been about.
All right, Nick, what are you going to be doing on the International Space Station? I know you're a flight engineer, but what will your daily duties be?
Yeah, so we're going to be up there for 6 months, and that's pretty hard to prescribe the exact schedule of what's going to happen up there. So we all train to be able to be replaceable for each other, interchangeable with each other. So those tasks go into kind of two big bins. One is science, the primary mission why we're up there. The space station is this laboratory, the only laboratory in the world where you can expose experiments to long-term weightlessness. So we're trying to go up there to do the science. And while I'm up there for about 6 months, our crew is going to perform upwards of 250 different scientific experiments. But we also have to maintain that laboratory. So we have to fix it. We have to do preventative maintenance. Some of that's going to be on the inside. Some of that's going to be on the outside, and it'll require spacewalks. We also have to help the station resupply itself. And so that involves capturing visiting vehicles that are bringing up cargo and supplies. So the 6 months, I imagine, will go by pretty quickly because every day is jam-packed with activities that the team of thousands on the ground is lining up for us.
Nick, just about the 30 seconds we have left for you. I know the time will go quickly, but for your family at home waiting for you, it might be a little slower. How have you been preparing? I know you're a military family, but there's still got to be some conversations you've been having.
Oh, absolutely. It's an ongoing conversation, and you try to eliminate as much uncertainty as you can. There's obviously going to be nerves about me working off the planet, and so we try to talk about the things that I'm going to do and familiarize our children with it. My wife and I are both active duty Air Force, and so the dealing with a deployment, if you will, is not something that's foreign to us. I've deployed. My wife has deployed multiple times. This is something that we're familiar with and know how to kind of navigate that process.
All right, astronaut Nick Hague, thank you so much for your time. We will be watching here and wishing you well every step of the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Nick, do you hear me?
I've got you loud and clear. How me?
Hi, how are ya?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. We're less than 30 seconds out.
Okay, thank you.
And you're talking to Brittany.
Okay.
Stand by.
Good morning and welcome back to KSNT News here on your Wednesday morning. A Kansas native is taking his Air Force training to new heights. Nick Hague will travel into space for the first time next month. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Brittany.
Well, thanks for being with us this morning. And we have to say you were born in Belleville, Kansas, and we have to know, what's it like to be a small-town Kansas kid going to space?
It's pretty hard to look back and think, that's where I started. When you're growing up in rural Kansas, as you're growing up, you think you don't have any opportunities, and you think you might be missing out. Looking back on it now, I realize that growing up in rural Kansas actually was pretty beneficial, because I got to do pretty much everything in high school, play all the different sports and be parts of all the different clubs and activities. And that breadth of experience really gave me a foundation that led to the start of this journey. So I wouldn't change a thing where I came from.
And Nick, you are going to be going for the first time, and there's, I'm sure, a lot of preparation to go to space. What have you had to do up to this point to get ready?
Yeah, so my preparation started when I was selected back in 2013, and essentially I haven't stopped training since then. The dedicated training for this flight is about 2 years long. So back in 2016, I started the training process and putting on the finishing touches of spacewalk training, learning how to maneuver the robotic arm, learning how to repair all the major systems inside the space station, whether that's in the U.S. segments or it's in our foreign partners segments. And so some of that training happens in Japan, and some of that training happens in Germany. A big chunk of that training happens here in Russia, in Star City at the Cosmonaut Training Center. That's where I've spent a better part of a year over here learning how to fly the Soyuz spacecraft that's going to take me to the space station.
And this is a 6-month mission, and you're going to be doing a lot of research. Can you give us an idea on some of the research and the missions you'll be a part of?
Yeah, so there's going to be more than about 250 different experiments we're going to do during that 6-month period. All of them are important because that's the only place that we can try to answer some of these questions on the space station. It's the only place we can perform these experiments under long duration weightlessness. Some of those are I'm a little more involved in because it's human research. So I'm the subject of the experiment. Whether it's muscle biopsies where they're taking samples of my muscle before and after flight to see how space affects my muscle structure, or it is a test of my lung function while I'm on orbit and down on the ground so that we can better understand how the respiratory system works, or whether we're trying to investigate how fluid and pressure shifts within the body because we don't have gravity tugging on our blood and all of our fluids inside our body while we're floating around up there. All of those things are trying to understand how the human body works, and the spin-offs of that knowledge help advance science.
Well, Nick, we are wishing you the best of luck from right here at home in Kansas. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we can't wait to hear more about all of your progress. From there, we'll be back after this break.
Nick, this is Denver. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So, of course, we want to talk to you about your Colorado connection and the fact that you went to the Air Force Academy. What language did you study at the academy?
So my freshman year, I studied Japanese.
Okay, why Japanese?
That was about 20 years ago, so.
So why Japanese?
It was a strategic language, so one of the languages where the Air Force wanted us to focus on doing. And in high school, I had a little bit of exposure to Japanese as well. One of our language instructors spoke Japanese, and so here in high school, so I extended that into the academy. Very difficult language. I think maybe only second to learning Russian.
And that's the next question. How's your Russian?
Day one when I showed up in 2013 at NASA after being selected, Russian language training, and that continues on to today. There's always, I can tell that I'm not as fluent as I need to be, but it is amazing to see the progress over the last 5 years and to know that, I just finished my qualification simulations over here with my commander, Alexei Ovchinin, and all of our flight from the ground to the station and back through landing, the entire flight was conducted in Russian. So obviously I have a very good Russian instructor back in Houston, Texas.
And are you taking anything from your hometown or the Air Force Academy or MIT up on with you?
I am. We have the ability to take a pretty small, lightweight objects up with us, just a few of them. And so there's some things that are, they're symbols for me of those places and my connections to those institutions that I'm taking with myself.
Will you tell us what you're taking from the academy?
There may be a few surprises in there, but I definitely am going. It's going to be my 20th reunion while I'm on orbit. And so one of the things I've got, the red hat, very similar to the red hats they gave us when we first showed up for basic training back in 1994.
How very fun. You're going to be running into some other Americans that are already on the ship. Have you trained with any of them or met any of them before?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things we try to emphasize is the ability to respond in the case of an emergency. And so prior to launch, we have training opportunities with the entire crew that's going to be on orbit together so that we learn how to work together with each other, learn to predict how others are thinking, and so that we're very comfortable. So under a stressful situation, we can perform at our peak. So I've trained side by side with Alex and Serena, who I'm going to join up there from the U.S. International partners, as well as Sergei Prokopyev, who's the cosmonaut we're going to join as well.
So you're working in the Senate years ago. Any idea that someday you'd be sitting up in space looking back down on crazy Washington, D.C.?
I tell you what, if you look back at my career path, it's all over the map, whether it's working in a laboratory developing satellite technologies in New Mexico, or out in California at Edwards testing vehicles, or coming back to the Air Force Academy to teach, and then writing speeches and questions for a senator in the Capitol. It's just been an amazing career. Opportunities that I don't think I could have got anywhere else. So I'm super thankful to the Air Force for everything, all the opportunities that they've kind of laid out in front of me. It's been an amazing career.
Okay, so I have to ask, since you said you taught at the Air Force Academy, what did you teach?
I taught in the astronautics department, of course. So it started out teaching basic astrodynamics, astronautics for a class that every graduate has to take so that they understand how satellites work and how things move through space. It's important information for them to know. It was back in 2009 when I was teaching it. It's even more so today.
And how long were you there? Was it just the 1 year, or were you there longer?
I was there from 2006 to 2009, 3 years.
Well, we so appreciate your time talking to us today. Have a great mission, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you while you're up on board.
Sounds great. Thank you, Mitch. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Sounds great. Thank you.
facing, quote, vicious harassment and even death threats. They say she was forced to relocate her family.
The lawyers say Ford still wants to cooperate and is open to a hearing in the future. Republicans want to confirm Kavanaugh before the Supreme Court begins a new session, and that is.
Nick Hague, CBS New York. Can you hear me, sir?
I've got you loud and clear. Tell me.
Can I just get a quick?
Loud and clear.
Great. Thank you. Can I just get a little 10 count for level, please?
Sure. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Great. Thank you,
2.
sir. Stand by.
Yep.
Hi, Nick. It's Bianca. How's it going in New York?
Hi, Bianca. It's going well. How are you today?
Good, good. I just wanted to make sure of one thing. I read that you had been preparing for this launch for 3 years. Is that correct?
So I was assigned back in November of 2016, so it's been about 2 years of dedicated training.
2 years. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.
All right, guys, here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Astronaut Nick Hague joins us now from Moscow ahead of his big mission. Nick, thank you so much for being with us. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So you've been preparing for this launch for about 2 years. Tell us what that has been like. How excited are you to finally be on your way?
So we'll start with the emotions. It's a thrilling. Getting to this point has been an amazing ride, and so I've been dedicated training for about 2 years. But this is a training that started out about 42 years ago. It's a lifelong process. So I'm thrilled to be right at the precipice and ready to hop on the rocket and launch.
So, you know, the thing about an endeavor like this is you don't just do it by yourself. Your whole family's on board, I guess figuratively, if not literally, with you. And they've been kind of sort of training as well, helping to support you. Tell me about some of the stuff that you and your family have been doing to prepare, especially for your boys.
Yeah, absolutely. So spaceflight is as demanding on the person that's actually doing the spaceflight as it is on the family. It's probably more demanding on the family that stays on the ground behind. So it's something that my wife and I are not strangers to, long deployments. We're both active duty military. My wife's an Air Force officer. So I've deployed, she's deployed multiple times. We've deployed at the same times. So we have experience in the separation, and so we understand some of the things that are necessary to be able to make that connection and preserve that connection while you're apart, but then also bring it back when you finally get back together. The biggest difference here now is that we've got two young boys, and so trying to let them understand what's going to happen and remove some of that uncertainty, I think, has been something that's very critical. 6 months is a long time when you're young. And so just helping them count the days is something that we try to do. And so, my wife has a jar of candy, and they're going to pull out a piece of candy every day that goes by so they can make that countdown until I get back. They're going to be over here to watch the launch. So it's going to be the first chance for them to get to see a real rocket launch. And it's hopefully going to be something that inspires them. It's something that I hope inspires lots of people. The idea of flying in space, going out there, trying to push not for yourself, but for something much larger than yourself is something that I hope people gravitate towards and are inspired by. And I hope my boys can appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're really proud of you. I heard Lego and Tabasco sauce has been involved in the preparations.
Yes, so it's amazing what you can do with a set of Legos, but it really boils down to trying to help them understand what's going on, because a rocket can be a pretty scary thing, because when you look at it from a distance, it's just a big fuel tank. But when you get down into it, there's lots of different systems that are there that help protect the crew to make sure that the flight is going to be safe. And so building one together is a great way to be able to point out all of the different things that are there to protect the crew and keep us safe.
Nick, it's really cool to hear you say that this is much larger than you and even the crew, because it's one of the things that people have started to say now in 2018 is that, space exploration is a waste of time, it's a waste of resources. Growing up as I did in the 1970s, my heroes were guys like Neil Armstrong and Alan Shepard. In Hoaxie, where you were from, did you sort of look to the cosmos and think one day you want to be there too?
Yeah, I lived in a farmhouse outside Hoxie and staring up at the night sky. That's what inspired me, just the unknown and what was out there, and just this internal urge to discover. And so that's what started my passion for space, and look at where it's got me in 42 years. When I think about all the different things that I have accomplished along the way to this point, I look at all the different things that I've been able to serve and help others, through my service in the Air Force and to here. And so I think that brings a lot of good. Chasing your dreams brings that good. So that inspiration is powerful, I think, and it's something that we can't deny. But I think you can also look at the advantages and the benefits that come from research in space. We're up there doing science that you can't do on the ground. This is the only place you can do this type of research. And we're going to make discoveries that are going to pay dividends for humanity.
Well, your fellow countrymen here in America are so proud of you, as is the entire world. Colonel Nick Hague, astronaut Nick Hague, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure being with you.
Okay, he's ready. Go ahead and begin your interview.
Okay. Hi, Nick. This is Alex Tuckey with the Houston Chronicle. How are you?
I'm doing well, Alex. How are you?
Good, good. It's a little early over here, but I'm holding up. So how long have you been in Russia training at this point?
So I started, my first trip to Russia was back in January of 2017. And so the training is off and on between here and Houston primarily, maybe 5 or 6 weeks here and then a few weeks home and then 5 or 6 weeks back, and then repeat that for about the last year and a half to 2 years. So I've spent a lot of time away from home, and Star City has become kind of a second home.
Mm-hmm. So were you in Russia when they found the hole in the space station?
I was. And so I think like everybody across the globe that's involved with the space program, the International Space Station, I was watching as the crew was going through its procedures. And that's something that was impressed me. I'd trained with some of them shoulder to shoulder here in Star City and in Houston for just this exact scenario. And to watch them work through the procedures, find the hole and repair the hole and stabilize the situation. It was just watching them work was a thrill to see them put that training to use, and they executed it flawlessly. So that was one of the things that I took away from that.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, the investigation is still going on, and Russia now said today that they're not going to be done investigating until Thursday. Does that, until November? Sorry, does that give you any pause with your flight coming up so soon?
No, it doesn't, because I've got I've been over here in Star City working side by side with the Russian space program. I've got to meet a lot of these people. I can tell you that they're committed to making sure that they deliver a safe vehicle and that they've trained the crew to the best of their ability to be able to perform the mission safely. Everybody's got the crew's interest in mind. I know that they're leaving no stone unturned when they're trying to find out, what was the cause of this and how to prevent it in the future. And I can tell you, as a crew flying up there, I appreciate that. I want them to look at every possible cause and find how this happened and to make sure it doesn't repeat itself. But I think you can take trust in what they're doing if you look at their long history of very safe and reliable spaceflight. They're going to come to a solution, and they're going to deliver a safe spacecraft, not only for me to fly, but for all the spacecraft that follow.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard anything about whether this investigation is going to delay your flight at all?
I haven't heard any indications to that.
Okay. It's just been kind of business as usual for you?
Yeah, absolutely. When I showed up here about 3 weeks ago, or it'd be 4 weeks ago now, we started training, and all of that training was based on a launch on October 11th at 2:40 local time in Baikonur, Kazakhstan, and we're still marching to that target liftoff time.
Okay. You answered all my questions. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the questions.
Yep.